Today on the episode, we dive into AI and vulnerability management, the Canvas breach and its effects, GRC engineering and whether AI is necessary, and what is the best reporting line for CISOs. This is Distilled Security Podcast.
Somewhere right now, someone is digging through folders trying to find the right version of an evidence file for the third time this week. Controls scattered across a dozen systems, owners who left the company months ago, due dates that already passed, nobody noticed. It's how it's always been done, and somehow we just accept it. There is a modern, better way. Episki. Visit us at episki.com/DSP for a special offer.
If you're leading a company today, you're not short on ideas. You're buried under them. More tools, more frameworks, more initiatives that were supposed to help and somehow made everything harder. Minus Partners exists for leaders who don't need another thing added. Minus Partners helps leadership teams remove friction that's been normalized over time, so execution gets easier, not harder. Less noise, clear decisions, faster execution. Minus Partners. What you remove defines you.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to this episode here. We got a good lineup onto this. I think we'll start off with AI and vulnerability management. So this has been something kind of floating around quite a bit with the scary mythos that's out there that's going to break and hack everything, into this. To the effect of, I think last week we reported on HackerOne shutting down, their bug bounty program. Because they were getting too many AI submitted, vulnerability management. So I guess I just kind of wanted to level set. Do we have something to worry about into this?
Oh, man, I'm worried. I'm worried for those people who told me before that they cannot keep up with all the patching they have to do today.
That was before AI.
Yes, that's what I mean. I was worried before. And now with these frontier models, like you said, Mythos, and then what does OpenAI have?
Daybreak?
The new, Daybreak, the new, and the 5.5, and all of that stuff. And so as you look at that, what's happening is we're finding and discovering vulnerabilities in code so much faster. They limited Mythos to those top companies. And what are they doing? Well, they're hopefully using it to get ahead. So what's going to happen? If they're getting ahead and discovering patching or vulns, they're going to create patches. And guess where those patches are going? Right to all of you who need to figure out how you're going to get this all handled in your already tight patching windows.
Yeah. I was going to say, the next 6 to 18 months, I think, are going to be insane because we're in this weird halfway state where the models are identifying like legitimate 0 days in like Firefox and Mac OS and things like that. But they haven't yet been integrated into the CI/CD pipelines of these vendors. And so we're in this transition period where everyone who's responsible for like operational security is going to have a mountain of patches that have been discovered that they have to implement. And if you have any custom APIs, code, stuff like that, like there's a ton of regression testing, validation, like things you need to do. Some of it's just like pushing it over the wire could be problematic, but it's really more where you have customizations or things that could break because of a vendor patch. And like, even if you're like N-1, how do you think about all that when it's critical security issues identified by AI and now AI can exploit it? So like the mountain of vulnerabilities, the speed at which you need to fix them, and the fact that they're not, the software that you already have didn't come to you pre-secured with AI.
Right.
That's an issue.
So, and I guess, I'll play a little devil's advocate here.
As you do.
Yes, always.
You said you wanted to argue more.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, you look at it similar, like, and I know it's not apples to apples, but early 2000 and everything, the internet was wide open. People just had telnet, printers, online, internet, and then we slowly came out with, Nessus and vulnerability scanners, and they're like, oh, so we shouldn't have every device connecting straight to the internet with no firewall, type of thing. Like,
It changed architecture.
It changed it, and it forced it to the better. Now, that wasn't AI driven. That was a discovery like, oh, there's a lot of bad practices that we've done over the years into that, and it forced change rapidly.
Yeah.
And the people that didn't got popped, into that. And I have to think we're better than that, because while there are a lot of vulnerabilities being discovered, you're still hardening the external perimeter as much as you can. And if you're doing a good job on that, I would think you're ahead of the game.
Maybe. I'll push because, and I like the opportunity to argue with you. Well, I mean, think about it. So firewalls, what are they really doing anything to protect you when the stuff that's being popped is being opened up as web apps with APIs that need to be accessed across the internet?
Right, if it's an app, absolutely.
Yeah, and then
there was way less apps 20, 25 years ago, obviously, into that. So the breadth of exposure is way more.
Oh, way more.
Type of thing.
Yeah, the footprint is huge. And then you take the other part where, it used to be like, oh, it's DNS again being the thing. Well, now it's the some Git or NPM or whatever repository, somebody got into it, slipped some code into it, and then got it out there for 6 hours. And if you happen to be the person that decided to do your update over that time, well, you might have a bad day. Yeah. And so the firewall's not stopping any of that stuff.
And I'll also say, I think the difference also is, even if you're starting from a good place, the mountain of detections and the response that the big vendors have to do to patch their stuff,
right?
It's just going to come so fast.
Right, well,
and
Google
but then it will slow down.
Oh, 100%. This isn't a permanent problem. This is a transition problem.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. But I don't know any organization that's like, yeah, we have some like guys that are responsible for patching. They have like 30%, 20% of each day. They're just kind of like looking for things to do. Like, everyone's so operationally lean already. I think this is a mountain of new work that's coming that people aren't resourced for. And most organizations, you could say, oh, well, fight AI with AI. Yeah, just have AI like auto patch everything. It's like, well, yeah, but organizations aren't ready for that either. Right. And you're just going to break a bunch of operations again. Yeah, exactly. So now you're like, am I going to, it's like the age-old network patch dilemma. Do I patch the thing immediately and risk operations, or do I do the appropriate level of regression testing and all that stuff and, wait a little bit to actually get it out and maybe get popped in the meantime?
So for a lot of your customers, a lot of people, or even your organizations you've known, like, what are the typical patching windows that they have? Like, let's make
monthly,
this
quarterly is the typical. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, monthly, quarterly. And what's happening now is, Google just...
plus emergency patching.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
Which is going to be relevant here.
Yeah, exactly. And and Google just used, Gemini model in order to create its first zero-day exploit, right? Yeah. And that just happened. That was in the news just the last couple of days. And so... as these things come out, not only will you have new vulnerabilities discovered, but you're going to have faster time to a working exploit. And it used to be that you would hopefully be able to get the stuff done and patched before the working exploit got out there, so there weren't 0 days. And you think about these patching windows. How many companies do you know that also put a freeze on all updates at least at one time of the year seasonality?
Oh, we're a retailer, like, and it's near Christmas. Like, you're not touching operations.
At least they try to.
Well, again, exceptions to every rule, but
right.
So I think we spend the first part of this conversation. Well, let's keep uncovering problems. So that'll be a problem. Is I have an inflexible, mandatory, and now I'm a cybersecurity leader trying to influence my company. That's another problem for me. How do I know I need to patch more. I can't get them to patch today. And yet the number of patches that are going to be on the list are going to be, many times over.
That's a really interesting point, not to jump straight to like recommendations, but the concept of, hey, you might want to start proactively considering your policies as this mountain of work starts to get closer and closer to you.
You're catching on to why we're bringing this up on the podcast.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if you already have most of your big apps already in a process like your Microsoft, your Oracle, all the standard stuff, whether you get 10 patches or 100 patches, it's still roughly the same process, into that. There might be a little bit more risk, Well,
again, I think it depends on customizations and implementations.
Well, see, that's where it gets into the tricky stuff. So if you're rolling your own apps, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's, all unique and won't be discoverable unless you're looking at it, or somebody else will discover it.
Or if you have a mountain of implemented security exceptions that various patches might break or overwrite or change the game.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of customers I talk to, and a lot of people that aren't customers I talk to, end up having patching based on criticality.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now you get the plethora of patches. Some are low, and some are high and critical. And what I'm totally expecting is that we're going to see a ton more, not just a ton more patches, but a ton more criticals.
Well, and what happens? So you have a critical, and you say, oh, this has to be outside the normal patch cycle.
Yeah.
So someone somewhere is up at 2 a.m. On a Friday, making a thing happen potentially.
But I'll put a pause onto that. I with a lot of my PCI customers with 4.0, they put into some of that stuff. The first thing I tell them is you get to come up with your own rating. Don't just take the vendor, at will if you're not prepared.
I'm not suggesting like it's a CVSS like just raw score. I'm just saying like
it could be like
actually critical
remote, remotely RCE or something like that, and it's on a Microsoft server, but that's in a zone that only admins have access to. That's not critical for you.
Yeah, the question is, could this really hurt? But
exactly.
my note is, if it could,
and that's the thing. Like, I guess I'm saying before we even get to whether it's critical, like, don't take the vendor's word for it.
Agreed.
100%.
Yeah.
Contextualize it into your environment first, and then if it is truly critical, then you got to pull the emergency lever.
Yes,
type of thing.
Totally agree with that. But I think what we're going to start seeing is the pace of those criticals that keep people up till 3 or 4 a.m. is going to hit and hit and hit and hit until things like Daybreak have built AI vulnerability scanning, like shifted it left in the CI/CD pipeline, so it never hits the customer. We're just in a weird middle state.
And I guess this is where I come back to my original point. If your exposure is low from an external perspective, hopefully you're not dealing with all those criticals. You might get a lot of vulnerabilities for applications, but if you don't have the services running on your, external presence, then hopefully it's less criticals and less emergencies that you're dealing with.
Yeah, and it's a good point to think about in terms of if the leaders are going to start thinking about changing their policies, maybe cast an eye to how you deem things, how you do your assessment to modify your CVSS score to say, well, is this, it's critical generally. Is this critical for me? Yeah. Because I don't know, that might need to be adjusted to some extent.
And for criticals and highs, what are you typically seeing the response time for patching? Like 3 days and 2 weeks?
You're talking about SLA or SLA'd? Critical is ASAP, but I think one customer I work with, we just redid it, is 2 weeks.
2 weeks, okay.
Into that.
I see others, the criticals are 72 hours max because of the criticality
but
of that environment.
That's not possible if it's
just the environment size.
Yeah, exactly. So they allow maximum 2 weeks, but it is enacted ASAP. It is an emergency. It is wake people out of bed, type of thing.
For the big orgs I've seen, the more mature ones, they will have percentage completion rates over time. So so it's not just a straight like, oh, it's going to be everywhere in 2 weeks. It's like, well, in the first 48 hours, we're going to get 50%, and then in the next
on external versus internal.
Yeah. It's they walked it that.
That especially would come up like for a Log4j when it was just like everywhere in every app in every vendor, type of thing. Like there's just no way you're
get the internet facing surface handled.
Well, especially for like endpoints and stuff like that too. It's like things that aren't always on or things that like, I mean, there's just stuff that
you're waiting for Bob to come back on vacation so his laptop turns on.
There's a billion corner cases. And so like, typically
he checks his email for 5 minutes and then he forces a patch like, we're rebooting right now.
So typically it's like for the bigs, it's like percentage-based completion over time.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And, that's... you have to do it that way. There's almost no other way,
Well, if you just say like a flat 2 weeks, like all your regulators are like, what are you talking about? And if you just say, well, it's 48 hours or 72 hours, all your ops people were like, what are you talking about?
Right, you'll never make
So you
that
have
everywhere.
you have to balance it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing with PCI. Like if any QSA saw that and you breach your 2 weeks, it'd be like, well, what are you doing? Type of thing. So yeah, there is a little balance. But no matter what, I think the critical should just be an emergency ASAP, wake people out of bed to get it done.
Yeah.
Right.
And that should be reserved for that, type of thing.
And so I think there's going to be some organizations certainly that, unfortunately, as these things happen like hot and heavy over the next 6 to 18 months, you're going to have a critical on day one and then a different critical on day two. And then you go, what do you do? Keep the same people out of bed? Like
It's the
just
same 2-week cycle, just one day shifted for a different problem.
Yeah. I just think operationally, if people don't have safety valves built in to get help, if you're like a big org, start thinking about that alongside your policies.
Well, yeah, and I think there is an advantage from an AI perspective, the way it's designed, that it's just not cost effective to just take Mythos and start scanning the internet.
No, right.
Type of thing. Like I think, it can make, proof of concepts real quick, and then, you could do that potentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not going to have everybody scan everywhere at one point once it comes out.
No.
It just, nobody will.
But it's interesting because I think it's a vendor caused problem in a way, because we are talking about vulnerabilities, but what we're really talking about now is the operational reality of what do you do when you have 2 criticals at once? Like, are you prepared for that? It's a real reality for some organization. Or it's a possibility for some organizations in the next
Especially
year
it hits
or so.
the same team and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the whole point. So if there's something to take away from this, it's, if you haven't started thinking about this, now's the time. Get started, figure it out. One of the, Justin, you and I are, both, I think, at the IONS faculty recommendations and emails that they send out daily.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'm just a couple of points they made. The consider is run surge scenarios. So test your organization's ability to handle a sudden influx of credible vulnerabilities across critical systems. And if you can figure out how to do this, stand up your own AI-assisted triage. So that's our other recommendation. 2 more recommendations they had was prepare for disclosure pressure. So assume that you're going to have a problem that's going to breach something, and are you really ready to go for that? And the one thing I liked the most was plan the fix-it week. That was my favorite of the points. Is schedule a regular time frame for when resources are dedicated to fixing the backlogs of vulnerabilities, and let them go after that. So just like you have like a surge for handling any other backlog, and you're just going to take some time and do it, you need to get the teams coordinated, figure out if you can get them working on this plan. And I would start with the first one and the last one, which is run the surge scenario, sit down and just say, what if? Tabletop it. What if we had this? What if it happened? I love the way you said that, Rick, is that they, one's today, one's tomorrow. Imagine that happening for 30 days in a row.
Dude.
How's your org going to respond? And if I was the bad guy, knowing that a lot of places have these windows where they don't want to make changes, and you want to do it at a really bad time, what happens if it's on the 4th of July weekend when everybody wants to not be there?
Yeah.
What happens when it's hitting the Black Friday? What happens when it's hitting the Christmas Eve? Those kinds of things.
One other thing I would just add to that is think about the human impact of burnout in these scenarios in 2 different ways, right? Like we saw in COVID what happened, not that it's like exactly the same thing, but we saw a bunch of healthcare professionals stressed out of their mind and they just left the industry. So do you have key person risk in your org with respect to patching? Like if you do, and you end up with like critical on day 1, critical on day 2, critical on day 3, they may be like, dude, I can go do something else. I'll go barista at Starbucks for a while.
Right.
Like, so you just consider that.
Well, I'll say this then. Which organizations out there do you know that don't have people already in the burned out scenario?
Already there. So that's my point, right? So if you're already, rowing a leaky boat and the waves are coming, Well, think about that.
Yeah, I would say you make that part of your internal before the security team sits down and tries to do some of those recommendations, like run the search scenario and run the tabletop of what it will look like. I would say you get your security leader sitting down with your head of HR and head of IT and just say, let's look at all of our people. Which ones are already in the burned out phase or nearing burned out? Because now if we're going to stress them, what's going to happen?
Right.
How are we going to manage this? Not only should you ask people to plan the fix-it week, but I think you need to let the people who are going to be on that fix-it week, you better pre-schedule some mandatory time off.
Right.
Let them generate a little bit of goodwill first before they jump into
fully
this.
agree. And in addition to that, think about, are your backups really adequate backups to respond to a critical thing while your people are taking off or not or whatever?
Backup people.
Backup people. Yeah. Because, even if it's not like some mandatory PTO to make sure people are ready for the wave, people get sick. People have vacations where they're not contactable. We hang out with a lot of IT nerds that really like just going to the woods and not being connected for a week or two. Mm-hmm. So just make sure that, if that critical hits on a day where your A player isn't there, well, do you have another A player on the bench or someone that can jump in?
Who's your first responder?
Yeah. You have someone can help. On a tech perspective, though, do you guys know about M-Dash or MS-Dash? It's the thing that Microsoft's using.
Yeah, I just heard about this.
Yeah. So on patch 2s, the patch 2s that had just happened, it's I think it's their internal thing, but it identified 16, I think criticals and 4 of which were RCEs, as a for instance. But the thing that I think is cool about it, because we're talking about AI and stuff like that and how it's changing things, the way that they have M-Dash architected, it's not like an agent, Mythos or a model. It's an orchestrated series of agents. So it's 100 agents working together.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of auditor agents.
Yep.
And then there's challenger agents that validate that the auditor agents have found something normal. Then there's deduplication agents that are deduplicating the validated exposures and stuff like that. So I think there's 3 or 4 types of agents, but it's just an interesting note that some of these organizations are doing it through very powerful models. Other organizations are doing it through orchestration of kind of agents that are existing on not novel models.
Yeah.
Right. And as those things start to converge, things are going to get even faster, which is crazy.
Yeah. More expensive, but
more expensive.
But that's exactly, the open claw kind of thing.
Exactly right.
Agents checking agents. And I think that is the future, of a lot of different stuff.
Microsoft's doing it now.
Yeah. And then for the various different agents, you put the appropriate model. So you don't need a heavy thinking to just validate or something like that. It could be a lesser model that doesn't spend as much tokens.
Yeah.
Into that. One thing I would say before we end on this conversation, I would also say as kind of a mid-tier approach, to this, all good suggestions, but also reevaluate how everything kind of connects.
Oh, the architecture. Well, I loved your point earlier.
Do you have RDP coming in from the outside? Do you have an Oracle application that's, internet facing? Or should it be behind a VPN or a Zscaler or something that can provide a little bit of protection, to, front-facing stuff?
Yeah, your note about Qualys, Qualys is scanning everyone now, or Tenable is changing the architectures on the back end because we were like, well, dude, there's a lot of noise,
right,
but let me make that internal noise.
Yeah.
I love that note. I don't know exactly what those architectural shifts are going to be. I want to think about it a little bit. I could probably guess. It's
probably going more to, zero trust and, just basically dynamic routing and rule sets.
I think that's absolutely a really good call.
Yeah.
It's going to be so heavy. People are probably just going to start to shift how things are put together.
Yeah, and people are doing that. I mean, I've worked with some customers that they've implemented that.
Yeah.
It's easier with AI, to make up the rules. It's a little bit harder without, but it'll probably get there eventually, type of thing. For bigger companies, if they're in a big shift of switching their infrastructure, that's a natural progression, to at least have the capability there, type of thing. But yeah, I think the smaller amount of exposure you can have and manage, the better off you're going to be, from that. And then deal with the internal as it, comes in, and you can put it into normally a normal cadence, of patching.
So is mean time to patch going to replace mean time to detect as a KPI?
I mean, there always is a mean time to patch, right?
I don't know that I don't know that I've seen that being like a dashboardable thing in a lot of organizations.
Completion of patching is
patch completion cadence, particularly for criticals. But again, what I've seen in the past is that's like this thing's happening. Let's watch this thing, and it's not just like a general mean time to patch across the board. I just don't know.
Maybe
I'm just interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, but the more common thing is like, how many criticals do we have and how many are 100%. Outstanding or high and all that stuff and everything, which is important,
for sure.
So, any other comments? Anything else?
No, but I think, Rick, you were telling us a nice way of the way that you thought maybe our conversations today could go. So, as we go from this one, unless Justin, you want to hit some different way, Rick, how does this lead into the next thing we're going to talk about, Canvas?
Yeah. So the Canvas breach, that happened, right? It was massive, right?
How many? So when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh, Canva got breached."
That's what I thought too.
I was like, "Oh no, Canvas."
Well, in the part of Canvas, when I was reading about the thing that tricked me was Canvas's learning management system. Is called Instructure.
Okay,
which is kind of a clever name. I kind of like that, but in like 3 articles I read that as infrastructure.
So did I.
Like, Canva's infrastructure got breached. And I'm like, wait a minute.
No, that's not it. So some background, if you don't know what this is there's a company called Instructure. They have Canvas LMS, which is used by this affected 9,000 educational organizations. So I'm assuming there's more than that use it.
Including all 8 Ivies.
Oh, yeah. And in the greater Pittsburgh area, I think there's like a dozen colleges and universities that use it.
We were at a dinner with somebody that was talking about dealing with this breach.
Oh, there you go. And 275 million user records were included. And worse than that, they hit the right time, the end of the school year, where finals are being done, and they're using the system for that. So the disruption was disrupted finals, final week across many of these universities, which would mean that what's going to happen? Delays for students finishing, delays for graduation, all this kind of stuff. And so this unfolded rather quickly. And so thinking about the timeline. Is the incident appeared to be just a large-scale data theft and extortion event, and I was just trying to find it if they figured out how they got in the first place. What did you find?
So essentially there is some shared infrastructure on the back end. So the Free for Teacher program or something allows you to spin up a free account. So what happened was people spun up a free account. They exploited a vulnerability, tie into AI-generated vulnerabilities. They exploited a vulnerability, and they were able to break containment, essentially. So then they went from free account to, hey, I can do anything. And so I think getting back to architecture, right? There wasn't segmentation of sensitivity on how these things worked, essentially. And so I don't know the specific vulnerability that was levered or chain.
It was in-app.
But essentially it was a free user, an in-app vulnerability, and then you could pivot to seeing everything and defacing public sites and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and so one of the things that just came out as new news in the last couple of days here was that they What's it called? Not infrastructure.
Instructure.
Instructure.
I think it's like instruction. But also structure.
And so Instructure negotiated with Shiny Hunters, which is the
attacker group, whatever.
Yeah. And they negotiated directly with them, and they were able to settle this. Well, undisclosed whether they paid or not. They suspect they did. Right? You'd have to. Right.
Describe to me how you settle
without paying.
Yeah.
But they no public record of any payment amount or what's happening there. And
I've seen rumors. This is not
okay.
Rumors suggest it's 10 million-ish.
Oh, really? Okay.
And again, fully unverified.
Yeah.
But that's what the word on the street is.
Good. And so what happened here was instead of all these separate universities that their data was actually taken, they weren't negotiating directly. The SaaS
the vendor
negotiated on their behalf. And so I'm not sure I've seen that before.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
who owns the data? It's the SaaS provider. Typically will write that they own it.
Well, I think the university owns the
Yeah.
data because it's the student records and all that stuff. So that
Usually if you give it to a SaaS, there's typically stuff that says anything you put on our platform, we own it.
I think if it's a commercial agreement with
limits, you can have them maintain their stuff and say that you're not going to do anything. But I've seen typical SaaS things. They're basically like, if you have the data, like we can do stuff with it, you know?
Well, they can do stuff, kind of. Like I would argue, like I don't think AWS owns all the data on AWS. I don't think Azure owns all the data on Azure. I don't think
Fair enough.
Salesforce, blah 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 blah
But
blah.
it's not really a SaaS.
Well, even QuickBooks is a SaaS, and
Yeah.
they don't own my my financial data. You know, that's they're just a place for me to put it.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so it is interesting that the SaaS in this case or provider negotiated kind of on behalf of
right. Well, they were the way I read it was centralized ransom negotiation is how it was handled.
Yeah.
And so thinking about it, in the last couple of days, they said they returned the data. And the attacker provided digital confirmation of deletion.
Logs of.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And customers allegedly will not be individually extorted. So that was what the Reuters article were saying. But what it comes out to me as, well, what did they return? Did they return all the data? Or how do we know? And what I'm most worried about is like the phishing attacks.
I was going to say the deep fake stuff.
What's coming next?
Because part of what was breached, I mean, there's a bunch of personal data, some of which is even like medical accommodations and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But a ton of communications between students and their advisors were in this system. So if you want to masquerade as an advisor or as a student and have all the contact information and like, this is a gold mine for that.
Yeah, so you're thinking it's going to be targeted phishing attacks at this point.
Well, again, assuming, because I tried to do a little bit of research on this, and of course there's like no data, but like, hey, do shiny hunters usually keep their promises? And the answer is kind of like, well, there's no confirmed data either way, but it's a pretty common tactic to say, yeah, we promise we delete it, and then you slowly sell it on the dark web over time.
Oh. Yep. So I take it back what I was saying. Customer typically owns the data, but there's usage licensing all around it.
And processing and all that stuff. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is a case where another good quote, customers stopped being the software, or Canvas stopped being the software, and it became the infrastructure. And so
right.
What's happening here is like this whole thing became another example of a place that has software that's used by so many that software becomes critical infrastructure. And what was it? Change.org? Or no, what was the...
Change Healthcare.
Change Healthcare.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is like they were... there's some similarities here. They were a small-ish piece used by many. So one to like, not just many, but tons. One to tons of different users.
You'll be surprised. Like, I've actually had the opportunity over the last couple of years to work for behemoths of companies that own markets, essentially, that you've never heard of.
Well, I wanted to talk about that because I thought that would be a good place to think about. So if this can happen in the pharma distribution. This can happen in I'll call it the distribution of finalizing your education for the year.
Yeah.
What other industries might be subject to, wow, we could have one organization get totally breached, which now with these AI models from the last story we talked about, making it easier to do this. What other industries are like that? What comes to mind?
I mean, I think of Equifax immediately. I mean, they're like the credit infrastructure.
There's 3 credit bureaus,
right?
And
they all have all the data. They just do slightly different calcs.
Yep. All PII.
And so that's a repository of data. But I guess if you're also trying to walk into your local clothing store, they offer you a discount because you're going to get their credit card. They go to run your stuff, and now no credit agencies can respond. Now you have nothing happening.
Right.
What else can go down? Think about your
absolutely all the deep fake stuff. They have all the data at some point. Like it's crazy. I mean, even just like identity verification. How many identity verification stuff is based on, well, tell me about where you lived at what address you had at this date. I mean, if you were a renter and that's part of your credit history, like that's in there.
Oh, it is. But if you're going to go somewhere else and you want to disrupt an industry, what industry would you go after, and what common vendor do they have that if you took them down, you're going to take down another industry?
Yeah.
Back-end payments channels is I'm sure going to be a big one. There's going to be logistics stuff on the background that that help broker information about shipping and routes and all that stuff. I mean, those industries I think are pretty centralized on a few specific vendors.
I'm wondering how bad GPS is for if a single attack on a single item could take down.
Dude, GPS as critical infrastructure is a very cool thought. Yeah,
and we did some tests against it when the previous company, like its ships are susceptible to GPS poisoning and everything. So you could actually, poison some of the GPS if you have a strong enough signal and throw ships off course over, certain time frames and everything. So.
Telco forever has been, but even just like the Apple ecosystem as for instance.
Well, and
I don't know.
I also think about there are a ton of industries that are typically small owned, like gas stations, veterinary services, dentist office, all this stuff. They're digesting services on the back end, and
those are behemoths typically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there are probably only a handful of companies that target dentist office, and have a system with that. And I'm sure when was the last time they had a pen test? Have they been using AI to do some of the stuff?
Another example from just about a year ago now was the one car dealer software.
Car dealerships, yeah.
There's only a handful of different softwares that do that, and there was one that was publicly exploited, and it took down the capability, like all the inventories on there, the ability to go through and run your sale up, and the whole thing is inside of that one, and that one was breached, and they were offline for I think they were ransomware, so they were offline for almost a week.
Yeah,
and that was I think about 12 to 15 months ago now.
Yeah.
I think a CrowdStruck is another event that is related enough that I'm like, well, digital EDR security type stuff. Not that there's one vendor, but there's not a ton.
Yeah.
Right.
So the reason I'm bringing this up is because, again, I always want our listeners to go, oh, wow, I need to think about something I haven't thought about before. And it's examine, I don't know your infrastructure. I don't know your dependencies. Hopefully you do. I see a lot of security people who don't. So figure it out if you don't know it. But understand what makes all the parts of your business work and why. And then figure out if one of those things you use is used by 1,000 other of yous, because that's probably a higher target for the bad guys.
Yeah. How do you go about doing that? Is it tabletops? Is it
I think it's more of an architecture review. And I think it's architecture review at a level that you're not used to doing because you don't make the time to do it.
Yeah. Dependency review.
And you're challenging a lot of assumptions.
Yeah. Like if this goes down, then what? Type of thing.
And even before that, it's like, show me how everything's connected. And every time you get to a level and you draw a box and you say, this is the thing, don't stop there because there's probably like, well, what's underneath that? What's in it? What do they rely on? And is there a software package that's open source that could get totally...
Don't worry, they have a SOC too.
Yeah, okay. That's good. Nobody read that, so it doesn't matter.
I'm sure there's a more elegant way to say this, but it's like the 5 whys of dependencies.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is actually funny. Like a lot of these companies that, they just have huge markets for small niche type things. They've been around for a while, which is why they've kind of taken over, a lot of this. And their applications were not developed yesterday. Like I remember one, I'm not going to say the industry. It was one big Perl website, like CGI. It was over 200 repos of Perl code.
Yeah.
And it actually was one monolith application. It all compiled down into one application into this.
That's incredible.
And I was helping them a little bit with their application security and some of the other stuff. And it was just like, oh, man.
I want to do some AI assisted research now around like the quote, everybody uses XYZ.
Right. Yeah. And put it on deep thinking mode and tell it to...
Right. Go do research.
Yeah. If I come back and there are the answers there and it's only 10 minutes, you didn't think hard enough.
Because I bet it'll spit out a whole bunch of names. I'm like, who's that?
Yeah, right.
And then you go look it up and you go, oh.
Well, $5 billion company.
Build that in your prompt. That in your prompt.
Yeah.
For each name you come up with, figure out the revenue.
Right.
And figure out if there's any data about their dependencies.
Estimated market share percentage.
Yeah. And have it say, well, what did they depend on? And then keep having it do that until it can't find anymore.
I wonder if that's like, you'd have to really think about this, but if you have a decent inventory list or you have, like, I'm just thinking about companies and security leaders and stuff like that. Like, oh, okay, well, get an accounts payable extract or look at your budget.
Oh, I love the accounts payable extract. That's like the first thing I'd go to.
And drop your vendors into a thing and be like, hey, what do all these people rely on? What do they rely on? What do they rely on? Go find me concentration risk, 6 layers back. Go ahead and make some assumptions.
Yeah, but you drop that in AI, it'll do some pretty cool stuff.
That's what I'm saying. I think that'd be a really cool analysis, actually.
Yeah. So the update today, and I threw this into our notes here, is this made its way from just being a breach into a ransomware or whatever they negotiated with to giving it back to now it has congressional investigation.
Well, I was going to say, this is so big, and a lot of the educational organizations impacted here do like federal research. Like, I would be shocked.
Well, they get federal financial aid.
Right.
And so that puts them on the Department of Education square. But you're absolutely right.
I have to guess the FBI was aware of this. I don't know this, right? I'm just guessing. But I would be shocked if they weren't aware, and I'd be shocked if they were saying, yeah, go ahead and pay that bribe. So I think there's a whole interesting thought thing there, too. All conjecture.
I think the government's still stated thing is, like, we don't really have... They used to be like, don't, but they...
Well, if you're on an OFAC list, like if you're an adversary...
Well, you're not allowed to do anything with an OFAC.
You can't do any of that, but they weren't. But Shiny Hunters isn't.
No,
so it's not illegal to pay them.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that any agency. I mean, maybe someone did, or maybe they were just neutral.
Yeah.
But I'd be shocked if
But
the
how
FBI
do you
didn't
know
know
Shiny
about this.
Hunters at the end of the day?
I agree. Attribution is hard. There's a whole insurance
They're like,
thing.
here's a Bitcoin address. Pay this, type of thing.
It's funny you mentioned Bitcoin. I was thinking, I'm like spiraling now on all these different thoughts. But you were talking about, how do you even know they deleted the data?
Right.
Shiny Hunters. I was thinking like, not that I want to like enable bad guys, but I was thinking, is there an engineer? Could you have some sort of blockchain-enabled auto contract thing set up if you were like an attacker group to like pseudo-prove that data got deleted in a way that's better than... Well, no, if you're the guy... Well, they care because that's their marketing as to whether or not you should pay the ransom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just listening to an interview on CyberWire from the day on the way over here.
Yeah.
And they were talking to somebody who was talking about the credibility of some of these groups. And when you're starting to negotiate, one of the things you might want to find out is, well, how reliable is that bad guy group? Because are they well known to always pay? And when you pay, they always decrypt.
Yeah.
And you can get that, and they have a good reputation. They have a good reputation as bad guys for doing the thing they said they're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of important. But
otherwise nobody would pay in the industry.
Right.
You know?
So so just like to finish the thought here on the congressional overview. I guess in the next couple of weeks they're expecting to have a conversation about this, and they're. To me, this takes a story to, this is like national critical infrastructure and governance issue. But then to come back to the other thing we're talking about, when they're saying they're going to give away or give back the data or delete the data that they had, was there any kind of, well, I'll give you back all the PII. Okay. But what about all the API keys? What about all of the things that
that was one of the things, like, if you have credentials or keys or whatever, any sort of interface, start rotating that stuff.
Yeah.
Because they said, hey, we deleted everything.
But do you remember the story with Change Healthcare?
Oh yeah,
where they paid out, and then whoever did the initial compromise, he was part of like some parent group or something like that, and the parent group just disappeared.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Well, where's my money?" And he went back to the company to like recharge them and everything. Because the parent group ran away with the money. So, I mean, I don't know if when it was just a timing thing, he didn't delete it, but at that point, he still had the data.
He definitely still, right.
So, even though they paid, and got some data, type of thing. So, one of the things that I put at the bottom of our show notes here and everything, Black Kite, do you know that company there?
I don't.
They're a security scorecard.
I saw the notes on this.
Yeah. I've used them before in a couple of different customers. They're not bad, into this, but they're a typical vendor where they basically scan the kind of front end footprint of vendors and, look at BBB and all that stuff to kind of scrape as much as they can with light vulnerability scans, into that. And whatever you care about those, plus or minus, in my opinion. Anyways, beside the point, they came out with a great 2026 third-party breach report that is right in line to what we're talking about. And it focused in on third-party breaches for vendors, and everything.
Yeah.
So it said actually in 2025, 136 verified third-party breaches happened, and there was an average of 5.28 downstream victims per vendor. That means like
how many
companies?
How many downstream victims?
5.28.
Oh, 5.28 companies.
Companies,
not consumers.
Now, this canvas blows that out of the water.
I will say about the numbers there. Shiny Hunter said it was 275 million.
Yeah.
The canvas said it was 30 million. So there is a disconnect, I think, in the reported
those
numbers.
Are records, not necessarily companies. So companies in this would be schools.
Right, exactly.
That would be affected into this. But in total, it was like 719 companies. From those 136 were directly affected by those vendors, into insane. That. With 26,000 additional affected companies that were potentially impacted but never publicly named, into that. So, I mean, that's an extra 26,000 into that. So it's out there, and then they go into a whole bunch of like the detection times is like 10 days, disclosure lag is 73 days. There goes that 4-day to report.
Oh, yeah.
Type of thing.
Well, that 10 days even to detect it, I think,
right.
Like I know of a lot of companies that if this is sitting in there and it's not being noisy, 10 days is going to be quick for them.
Well, and there's also like, when do you start the clock? Like, 10 days starting from when? Starting from
compromise.
when they,
that means you got to be sophisticated enough to be able to actually
know when
figure
that
out day zero.
Yeah.
Victim
Do
zero.
you even have the logs to tell you when that is?
Right.
And everything. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, most attackers nowadays, they'll get a footprint and they'll just start discovery mode, not doing anything.
Well, one of the things,
100%.
Yeah.
one of the things, and I think that the Krebs article about Canvas was that there was a 2025 incident of some sort that is suspected to be
the
first-
precursor.
Yeah.
First contact. Interesting.
And they didn't sufficiently clean it up, or that's a rumor?
Yeah,
Well,
The rumor is they had a problem there that probably led to an initial hold of something that was able to make this last week's stuff possible.
I've definitely seen breaches where attackers come in, patch behind them if they think the environment, like, listen for a minute. If the environment's not sophisticated enough to know better, they make that assumption. They'll patch behind them, and then they'll just go dormant.
Yeah.
For a month. Typically, I've seen it for 3 months, and I've seen it as a strategy where they go, what do we think the log retention here is?
Oh, okay.
And if it's a quarter,
Yeah.
they'll probably start hurting you in a month. And I've seen attempts, or I should say not seen, I've heard of attempts that sometimes get caught in month 8 or month 9 because accounts were dormant for that long and they were going to wait the whole year. Or at least that's the suspected thing.
Yeah.
So, like, people get, so breach, but not really impact.
Right.
Because
They're patient.
they're just being patient. It's pretty
Now,
terrifying.
I hear that, and I align with that more on nation state stuff. Is that your thing? If you're going with ransomware, as soon as they get a foothold and they can reasonably compromise, they're getting that. They want that paid.
I think yes-ish.
Yeah.
I think it's really dependent on the adversarial group
Gotcha.
and their level of sophistication. Because, I mean, it's kind of like, I always, in my mind, mentally equate it to gangs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some gangs are like the mafia. And some gangs are like 3 guys on a corner. And they operate differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just depends. But I think it's a really good point in terms of, like, going dormant. It's that Krebs thing. I didn't see that. That's super interesting about they might think there's a precursor from, like, 2025.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the part of this article Justin's talking about, Black Kite talks a little bit about of the couple 100,000 monitored organizations, the average cyber grade is like an A, 90%. But
That's their grade. Yeah.
yeah, but the report argues this can mask it being like a fragile organization, where that means that 53% of them can have at least one critical vulnerability detected. So you could have an A and still have that one vuln that's going to be the one that's exploitable.
Dude, I've been saying this forever. It's like for, like, control frameworks. Like, if you're looking like a CMMI average or an A to F score or whatever it is, if I managed my house like that, I could tell everyone my house is super secure and I don't even have a front door on the hinges.
Right.
So are we grading this based on the scariest bad thing that exists and that's the floor and you cannot exceed this score if you're not doing MFA? Or are we grading this on just, like, average, do you have these controls in place? There's a huge difference.
I've locked 90% of the ways into my house. And I have.
How secure do you feel at night?
I have 10 windows and a door. I just don't have the door open.
Exactly
closed.
that, man. Exactly that.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
This topic.
Yeah, Canva's crazy.
I say, why don't we go into the alcohol and then do B-sides?
Yeah,
And
sounds
break
good.
for commercial.
Perfect.
Into
Yeah.
that? Okay, great.
What do we got here?
So we got Heaven Hill. First time we were doing Heaven Hill. So Rick, I don't know if you noticed this. I was surprised. Did you see the license?
KSP on it?
Yeah, right?
I literally just looking at this bottle like 30 minutes ago saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if people don't know,
What's KSP?
the KSP.
The
DSP.
or DSP,
KY.
sorry.
Yeah,
KY DSP.
Yeah, we were aligned. Just
Yeah.
So for every state there's a license for a distiller, and for a lot of them, I think all of them I know of, they go sequentially. And so in Kentucky, it's pride to have it down low, especially
you're like
sub 100, into that. And a lot of them, if you actually look at it, like the chart, like most of the ones in the hundreds, you'll see like burned down, prohibition, shut it down, everything else. But there are a few that have survived. One thing I did not know, and Heaven Hill is obviously a well-known thing, they are DSP KY1.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And we've been there.
We've been there, yeah.
I did not know that. That was really cool.
So, yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. It was the first license one in the state of Kentucky, which does a little bit of bourbon, into there. But, yeah, so this one here is Heaven Hill, Grain to Glass, into this. It is... 2018 came out. It is proof 105 into this. And I got a little bit of wheat into that. I don't even know what the tasting
say
into this. I don't know. They write so small in the bottle, I'll say more. But this is a very good example. Heaven Hill has a lot of different variety into it. If you haven't had it, they're excellent. And
this is a fantastic bottle.
Yeah. So, yeah, I get it. It's very smooth into that. I usually like stuff sub 100 is if I had to pick blindly a bottle. Yeah. But this has very little to no heat onto it. I get a little bit of kind of the weedy grass right in the middle of the
grass.
Yeah, right in the middle of it.
Yep.
And then it just kind of smooths out like right at the end into that. So, but yeah, excellent thing. And we'll definitely enjoy this bottle here.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers, guys. Yeah. Cheers.
We can do it.
I love our customary cheers over Justin or his laptop.
I was like, let's see here.
Quick break to hear from one of our sponsors. If you own security, compliance, or risk, and it feels like you're always pushing a boulder uphill, I want you to know about CISO. CISO helps growing companies get audit-ready, reduce risk, and stay resilient without drowning in tools, endless checklists, or one-time reports that quietly rot the moment the audit ends. This isn't shelfware. It's not drive-by consulting. With CISO, you don't just get advice. You get hands-on support from real security engineers, GRC specialists, and former CISOs who help you build, operate, and continuously improve your security program over time. Whether you're chasing SOC 2, ISO 27001, CMMC, HIPAA, or you're simply trying to get security under control so the business can move faster, CISO meets you where you are. Their managed VGRC model gives you enterprise-level expertise without hiring a full internal team or reinventing the wheel. The focus is simple. Clear priorities, practical controls, and measurable progress leadership can actually understand. Visit CISOLLC.com and start the conversation. Security you can trust, compliance you can prove, and people you can depend
on. Joe, is there a conference coming up?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe one called BSides Pittsburgh. If you haven't heard about that, then you haven't listened to the show. By the time this goes out, the speaker selections will have been finalized, and today
they were all announced this morning.
Yeah, today notifications are going out.
Nice.
And I think we have enough for 3 tracks plus a lightning talk track.
Oh, okay.
So, that's right.
Yeah, so it might actually be.
And so how's that different from last year?
I think we.
It was 2 main plus 1 lightning focused track.
So I think we're able to
you're adding a whole full track.
Yeah. We had to say no to so many good talks last time around.
Yeah, so we looked at the casino where we're holding this, and we were reconfiguring it a little bit in order to be able to get another talk. We looked at some of the rooms and saw that in the morning, some of the rooms were a little bit more full, but in the evenings, or not the evening, the afternoon, or after the first couple talks, they lightened up. And we thought, well, we probably could take one of those rooms that have a natural ability to put up the air wall and put up that wall and split it, because it wasn't so full that if people were a little bit more tightly seated, we could actually do a whole nother track. And so that's what we're going after. We had 100 submissions. I think we mentioned that last time. And our team, led by Kat on the CFP
I was just going to say, shout out to them. It is a ton of work to review all those papers, and it's like double blind, and it's just they put a lot into reviewing all of them.
Yeah.
So like all of them go through it like like once or something like that. And
There's a committee of individuals that review.
It's split up so that like you might get, like if you were on it, you might get 10 or 15 to review.
Okay.
And you might get 10 or 15 to review.
And I have a grading.
They might be some overlap between your two reviews.
Okay.
And everybody gets reviewed by a couple different people.
Okay.
And it's randomized, and none of the reviewers know who the submission's from.
Right. None of the names are there. And we ask everybody not to like put in things like
identifiable.
You know, I'm the CISO at this product company.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, don't do that. And then and so we got them selected and those are going out. I think there was a post today that went out on LinkedIn or something that said if you
check your junk folders.
Check your junk folder to make sure that it was there, because we need your response. In fact, we probably need your response before this podcast gets produced and and put out.
I saw a couple celebratory posts on LinkedIn.
Did you?
Hey, I'm going to be speaking at BSides. I just got the notification today. So some of them are going through anyway.
Excellent. Good to hear. I've been in back-to-back meetings all day and I came here. And so that's what's happening with the call for papers. The villages, nothing changed there, but if you haven't heard last week's or last month's episode, we're having a new village. It's the ICSOT village, so that should be fun. And then the wireless ops village, I saw some of their plans.
Oh, yeah.
These folks kill it. They're doing a lot of good stuff. And then we'll still have the various capture a flag events, lockpick village, speed mentoring, birds of a feather. I think we're over 20 sponsors now, up a little bit. And from tickets being sold, there's been, I think we're over 100 more than we were last time. So we're over 500 tickets at this point, which is tracking to where we typically go. I mean, we're still a few months away. So,
but the prices don't go down from here.
No, just under 2 months away. Can you believe that? Yeah, it's only 2 months away. And so, the prices are right now $35 until June 12th, and then they go up to $75. Yeah. So this will be out before June 12th. So definitely, get your tickets because you don't want to pay more. You don't want to pay more and also not get a T-shirt because we cut off the T-shirt ordering as we have to send those out to get ordered. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to all the other stuff. And DSP will be there, right?
Yep.
We're going to be doing some stuff.
Yeah, so we haven't figured out core format. I think we're going to be doing some interviews and being right in the same spot. So if you're there last year, we're going to be right there as you come up the escalators into that.
I love that.
And we're going to be doing some great interviews and talking to the people, into that. And
try to talk to some of the speakers beforehand and give you a sneak peek if they're willing to jump on with us and record some of those, put those up on YouTube, right?
Yep. So. Yep, we'll be there. Say hi. Yeah. We always like to talk to people and fans and criticize us, whatever you want. It'll be great. So
Justin likes to argue.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, no, you're wrong. It's great. So, all right. Why don't we break for commercial here, and then we'll continue on the next side.
Love it.
And cut. All right. GRC Engineering. Oh, look at this. Perfect cut time.
Yeah, yes, please. I've never had their grain to glass. It's very good.
Yeah. I think I got this down in Kentucky.
Oh, you got it down there?
Yeah.
So what are we talking about with this one? Because I just recycled last time's.
I don't know. You put it in.
Well, no, one of you put it in, didn't you?
Maybe I put it. Oh, I suggested it.
Yeah.
And I just recycled the note from last time. So this is just exactly the same one from
I put it in
September.
Yeah,
what was it? Was it basically like, or at least the frame that I had around it mentally was like, how different is it?
Yeah, and I wanted to put a little spin on it on like auditors. Are they going to accept like AI stuff, from evidence?
Yeah, I love
because
that.
Because it's non-deterministic, into some of that stuff. So how are people going to buy it? I was going to do a little bit of plug.
I was hoping you were going to do a little bit of plug.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
What I'm redoing. I want to show you guys after the episode here.
Oh, yeah.
been working on. But yeah, just thinking about that way on how you can actually do GRC engineering and some of the stuff. I want to highlight the GRC Engineering Club that AJ Yon and some of the other people.
Oh yeah, I love that.
They put out some Claude plugins and some other stuff out there that's actually been pretty good into that. So
are we podcasting now?
No, we're not. But
kidding.
I'll
You repeat that.
All right.
That was a good plug.
Hey, Buzzy, we're coming back in. So, all right, welcome back, everyone. Our next topic is GRC Engineering Meets AI. So I kind of wanted to, we were just discussing this over the break and everything on, we've had some talks on GRC Engineering, which is great. But there is a lot of talk. Obviously, AI is a great enabler for a lot of this stuff, but there are some rubs into whether like auditors will even accept evidence for, things that AI grabs. Because as we know, it does hallucinate, and if you don't have reliable evidence gathering, all of a sudden it puts into question, more sampling can compound.
Oh, yeah.
Headaches all around, type of thing. So I guess, first thing is, from an engineering perspective, have you guys seen some blowups with the GRC engineering community into this?
I have not.
No.
Not really. No.
Okay.
I was thinking you might go a direction of have we seen AI being used to generate evidence? And I haven't really seen that as much as reliable interfaces being created in order to go and get information.
Okay.
But what are you seeing?
But
with,
is AI grabbing it or is something else grabbing it?
Typically, what I'm used to seeing is a structured integration that isn't AI, that is actually going, downloading, doing API calls that gets the actual data.
Yeah, so it has an API call. Here are the parameters it's grabbing that, and then saying, yeah, that's proving everybody has MFA, or there's 3 people.
Right. Yeah. Take for instance, some GRC tool that where they have where they themselves get audited and supposedly how their integrations are built and their lifecycle around those is somewhat audited. So the auditor is going to come look at you. Yep. You're using an integration. That auditor will look at that other SOC 2 and say, oh, I can rely on that a little bit because I trust it.
Yep.
If he reads it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've seen a little bit of in-app stuff that's starting to be used. I've also seen
in-app. What in-app?
So in GRC app. So like, hey, let's use AI to start to look at maybe not evidence so much yet, although I think that's
almost contextual within the portal itself in the GRC tool.
Yeah.
Like I have all this data, let me make sense for it,
and it's often like, hey, I have this piece of evidence.
Yeah.
Is it okay based on policy? And the AI is looking through the policy, but not so much pulling the evidence or evaluating the evidence, at least in practice that I've seen so far. I've also seen on line 3 auditors, like some of your big externals, they're starting to use AI in field work.
Okay. To like sum up and highlight risk, or like to
more
point out?
I think more to collect evidence, and then they have sort of this
collect evidence. So their AI would actually have evidence into the system.
Yeah.
So it'd be internal auditors.
No, external.
I guess if it was external, internal.
Well,
you're not usually giving external access directly to systems.
Well, depending, right? So they say, give me an administrative account, or not administrative. Sorry, they give me a read. Sorry, give me a read-only account.
I guess
with access to read the things that administrator can see, right? And I've seen some tooling that they have that will pull evidence and do like an initial analyst pass, but I've also seen them be very, very vociferous around, but we absolutely have a human in the loop at that point, right? So it's hey, we pulled this, whatever password, we pulled your password standards for your, AD. We evaluated it to say like, does this look okay or not?
Right.
And then everything stops. And then an auditor has to go look at it.
Yeah. And I've used it. I mean, just.
Yeah. What are you seeing?
from an audit perspective and everything, I use AI a lot to help me kind of validate it. Like I'll open up a doc into this, but like a lot of times, like it just the other week with a customer had ACL rule sets, bunch of ACL rules with a lot of noise, a lot of data, all that stuff. I'm like, help me evaluate this from a PCI perspective.
Yeah.
Looking for unsecured ports, looking for things that don't have business justification, looking for broad ranges, that might be, pennies, into there that's inappropriate. And it goes through and hits, all these different points and everything. Now, can it make mistakes and miss stuff? Absolutely, type of thing.
But can an auditor make mistakes?
Yeah,
Justin?
exactly. Yeah, right. But yeah, it's great. It was like, oh yeah, these three don't have comments. This, it says it's using, SNMP version 1, type of thing. This has a question mark, so I don't even know what they're saying there. And it pulls out some great stuff that I can then take it, look at it, and then confirm, into that with my visualization, into it.
Do you have a process for like? I guess, are you running it through multiple loops or iterations? How are you refining?
Well, so for single files, no, into that.
Yeah.
Depending on how complex it is, it normally you don't have to do that, type of thing. If it's through like policy building, yes, I'll have multiple loops go through. And I'll actually give different agents different goals, into that.
So like different roles and goals.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like this needs to be comprehensive from security, look at it from that perspective. This needs to map up to PCI, look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
Look at it from, I don't know, grammar. Like I use Grammarly for a lot of different things, and it looks at it just purely from a grammar standpoint.
So like a team of experts that you'd want to have, theoretically. You're like, I wish I had an analyst to review this.
Yeah,
and I wish I had a second.
And I'll usually go through, speaking specifically on like policy building, it's usually phases of stuff. Like I'll design the policy architecture first with all the concepts, and then I'll go through and start doing content, into that, because I want to get a solid foundation of how everything kind of relates, and then start putting in content into that there. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of great work, and if you follow the GRC engineering kind of, out there, like it's been a few podcasts, but we highlighted a book from AJ Yon, GRC Engineering for AWS. He's been involved with some of this stuff, and I want to highlight, let me get the right name. It's a GRC Engineering Club that got started up recently, and they've been doing some good things. They have a repo out on GitHub. It's grc.engineering. No, that's a manifesto. Engineering Club.
An unrelated manifesto?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good manifesto from GRC Engineering. grcengclub.com. Go check them out. Go check out their repo. Like some of the repo that they put out there just like a week or two ago.
Yeah.
They have a whole bunch of Claude skills for GRC.
Oh, nice.
For ISO, for NIST, for doing audits, for doing TPRM, for doing a whole bunch of different stuff. And there's a number of other projects that, they're, starting and doing and all that, and providing a little bit of education. So check them out. They look like they're doing some great stuff into it. And I just see this being kind of the next evolution of GRC, into this. But, like one of the problems is it's going to take a little bit from an adoption standpoint and settle on some rules into this because a lot of people still mistrust AI for good reasons. It's historically hasn't been the most reliable, that. It's getting more reliable, but, there's still errors.
Well, and it changes rapidly, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I build a structure and I build a process and then I want to change to the next model because it's more powerful.
Right,
and then you go,
are you going to get the same output, into that? And you're hoping it'll be better, but sometimes it'll be worse, It
might be a better model with a worse result based on how you put it together.
Yep, exactly.
Nothing worse than getting your whole process all down and then the model that you rely on changes itself. And, I listen to a couple other podcasts and listen to people talk about that. And one day they're getting great responses, it's all working well, and the next day the model's updated and it's just garbage.
Well, and it's like a new employee with I always think of it, it's like a new employee with the same degree. It's like
same job description, same degree, different person.
Yeah. It's like, well, do I trust them the same way? Would I expect them to reach the same result in the same way? Like, you almost need to do some like A/B testing or figure it out. But yeah, when the models change, it's kind of like assume a new employee.
Yeah.
That you're not really sure if they're going to come to the same conclusion or not as the last one.
Yeah. So, and I've been thinking about this quite a while, like more into the realm of like where GRC is going, but specifically where GRC tooling is going and everything.
Well, you've been doing a lot of work on this personally, haven't you?
Yeah. So what was it? I've been coding for about 2 to 3 weeks now on this new thing.
Well, you started coding 2 to 3 weeks ago?
Yeah. But I've been planning another 2 to 3 weeks longer than that.
That's all manual coding. That's none of that's AI.
Yeah, well, I do AI.
No, I was making a joke. You only started coding 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and they actually most of my time in the weeks outside of like, customers I had to do, but I had no real big projects, into this. So all this stuff has been kind of looking at this from the ground up.
Yeah.
And really what I came to the conclusion with that where the GRC kind of market is going is the tools should be orchestration platforms. Data comes in, AI helps kind of the brains of it, but then should be able to write deterministic tests for whatever you want and then run those and then basically do whatever you want. Like AI will essentially be your main interface with some dashboards and reporting and some of the traditional stuff. But at the platform base, it can do whatever it needs to. So if you ask it to assign Justin all the physical controls, for him to do an assessment, it will take that and just do it. With it. If you have like one of my use cases into this is third-party risk management, into this. So if you have a vendor coming up due, if you give it permission, there's a lot of like permissioning into that where you set it to how comfortable, but you could have it fully autonomous and say, go chase this vendor's coming due. We got a SOC 2 from them last time. The agents will have email addresses, so they'll be able to like reach out and say, "Hey, on behalf of the company, I need your SOC 2. Please send it to me." Or it will be able to go into a trust portal.
I was going to ask if
and request it, like through the portal itself. If it knows it as a trust portal, it will go through, request it, and then be able to download it, analyze it, and if it's satisfied, it'll like write through and update the record. If there's issues, it can email the client and be
Let's stay on that for a second.
Yeah,
normal trust portal processes I've seen is you go to the website /trust, you get to the trust portal. From there, it says some high level stuff. Everybody shares a little bit of high level, but if you want more detail, you got to do something. And so what you typically do is
you do a request box with an email address.
And you got to also click and read the NDA.
Yeah.
And then say that you're agreeing on behalf of the other company.
NDA click-through is interesting. Keep going.
And so now you have
that's not my problem.
you've
I'll figure that out later.
Somebody signed it.
Interesting.
Yeah, you've clicked through and agreed to with your email address the NDA, and then you now wait until they respond back and say, "Oh yeah, now you've been granted access." So you typically get an email back,
right?
So
with a link to basically an authenticated.
So is the agent reading their email when it comes back in and sees that, and then says, "Okay, now I can go do the next part." So the agent is kind of like either paused on that activity and doing some other.
And
work.
It's downloading the file into an evidence repository.
Yep. So there's one big evidence thing, and it actually goes through and analyzes it and all that stuff, and everything is tracked. All the emails are tracked. All the evidence is tracked. You'll have full history. Like once you feel comfortable, I kind of compare it to like a self-driving car.
Yep.
When you first get it, you're like, "Oh, this is kind of cool."
I'm going to keep my hands on the wheel.
Yeah, my foot is going to be hovering right over the brake.
I still do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But as you get more and more comfortable, you can start, releasing the reins. And actually, worst case scenario is like, "Oh, sorry, that was our app that did that."
But it's any new tool.
Yeah.
It's any new tool. If you learn how to fire a gun, you're probably fairly cautious at first.
Yep. So, and that's the thing. It's like, it'll all be...
You should always be cautious, but you're probably extra cautious.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so basically I had to like break it down to base structure and kind of align the structure to support this. So it's basically a 2.0 tool at this point. Into it. Not only that, we'll actually. So right now, episki has compliance module, which has long-term programs and assessments, like short-term, assessments. Risk management, we just released out to that, and then issues, tasks, all this stuff, and everything. When we come out at the end of this month here, which I think at this point, releasing the podcast, it will be out into this. We'll have integrations into a number of core platforms, Google, Microsoft. Yeah,
so many people that I've talked to episki about have over the years been really excited to hear if you're going to get to integrations.
Yeah, I mean, it's and it's a core thing. Like if I incorporate AI, if I upload a screenshot, great, it can analyze and do all that stuff. But the real power is go get it yourself, type of thing. But that was one of the things that, like I mentioned, that, when you're doing non-deterministic, like polling, first off, you'll get variations between models. You get variations between the same model, depending on the time of day and all that stuff.
Can I ask you to pause for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
In case anyone who's listening doesn't know, because I think it's incredibly important what you're saying in terms of it's an orchestration architecture that develops deterministic tests.
Yes.
Can you just explain deterministic and non-deterministic for anyone who doesn't understand
So
that?
Non-deterministic is you ask it to do something, and you're not going to get the same result every single time, potentially.
Because AI is AI.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bunch of different routes that it could do depending on the time of day. If you ask it a question, even the same question, it could be a different result, into that based on its large language models, the data it has.
Pattern matching and assumptions.
Whatever it is. Deterministic is I have a pattern that I test, and it should test the same if the answer is true, and you'd be able to see, binary results, like is it on or is it off? Is everybody in MFA or are there exceptions to that rule? And that's where the deterministic, that's where auditors like to see. Like if I run this, I can rely on it showing me exactly what it is, not AI grabbing it and might change the data a little bit.
So non-deterministic might be something like, hey, AI, look at these 1,000 customer addresses and standardize them. Mm-hmm. And AI will do a pretty good job, but it's doing all this language pattern matching, all this stuff, and sometimes it'll get some things a little goofy, and it'll make some assumptions. But deterministic might be, hey, AI, write me a Python script to go through all these addresses and do something to them to standardize them, or do a whole bunch of logic, right?
Yeah, and every single time it'll run through whatever
Python is the Python.
The regex or something like that. Every time you'll get the same result, whether it's right or wrong, type of thing. It'll be.
And from an external auditor perspective, because I always zoom out, and this has been beat into me over the years, right? They have to validate the accuracy and completeness of the evidence.
Right.
So for non-deterministic tests, it's nearly impossible to validate the accuracy and completeness of the review or the evidence because AI did a thing. It may or may not have pulled the information.
AI over the history has been very much wanting to make you happy.
100%.
If you know I'm going to be unhappy because I wrote into my response one time, you mean not everybody's on MFA? That is very bad. Oh, well, I wouldn't be surprised if AI hallucinates 100% for you at some point because it wants to make you happy.
Yeah, absolutely right. Or it doesn't have a piece of information. It's just, I assumed this client had MFA because you said it was bad to not have it, and I'm looking at new client information, and there was no information about MFA, so I assumed it was there.
Or I did a poll, and it returned 0, so it must have been everything's good. Type of thing.
All of that. But so if you have AI accelerate the build of a deterministic test, now an external can validate in the same way they do it. If an intern wrote
and I call it in the tool recipes, type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's basically like, what am I calling? What am I testing? What's the result that would be positive?
And all that's logged so that you can tell any given point in time,
pull it up and
this was the recipe at that day.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is the model for allowing AI that sometimes gets things wrong to build something that will always do things the same way.
Yeah.
So an auditor can rely on the fact that the thing has been done in the way it was designed.
And we actually, I create a repo where we're going to be putting a whole bunch of standard, ones, because like if I go up to Google, there should be a standard test for testing for multi-factor. Like that's not going to change. And if it does change, it's going to change for everybody. So we'll have, 100 or so, like out of the box. Yeah. That would just be standard tests. But you can go up to the AI prompt that's, in the tool and say, I want to test anytime there's an exception to this group here within AD that, only 3 people ever should be, whatever it is, type of thing. It will write that recipe and then run it and make sure it runs successfully and then write into it. And then if it ever breaks, because we track errors, through the tool as well, AI will go back into it and be like, okay, what broke? I'll try and fix it, into that. And then once it finds the error, like if the API changed, you did a new version, it'll rewrite the recipe to a new version, and that's all tracked as well, and then rerun it, and then it'll run successfully.
But you said something to me the other day that I thought was actually also super important about this. Is it all one thread? Do I have to let AI fix the thing, or do I have the ability to say...
Yeah, so it's all permission based that you can let it send internal emails, you can let it send external emails, you can have it alert you only when it does it, or do an approval gate, before it does it.
So I could even be like, hey, I found this thing that's wrong. Do you want me to fix it if it has the permissions?
You put it as an approval, type of thing. So it's, again, you get to set the speed of what you're comfortable with. And the idea is, most people will probably set it to I actually have now in the tool, like 3 levels, like very conservative, balance, or I forget what the last one I put into it. But it will automatically set like all those levels to you.
Well, I love it because it's kind of like the self-driving car.
Default is balance, into that.
Well, it's kind of like the self-driving car. It's also how you treat employees.
Yeah.
Like if I have a new person on the team and they say, hey, I found this thing and it's bad. Do you want me to do something about it? Well, what are you suggesting you do? Oh, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Yeah, go do that. And if they get that right enough times, then I go, you know what? If you find things that look and feel about this bad, just go deal with them.
Yeah.
Just go do it.
Yeah, and
log it because I want to be able to
100%.
check
and 100%. You want to see exact history. But then I think most people will go through that thing and say, what's worst case? Like AI will chase somebody and then they'll complain to be like, what are they asking? And you look at it and we're like, oh, I'm sorry. Like AI learned.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
I've actually had that happen with real human people.
Yeah, right.
Who've been asking audit questions and follow-up GRC questions. And those groups have come back and said, what are they asking and why?
100%.
Yeah.
So I don't see a difference.
Yeah,
Except your agents don't get paid as much as they do.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And they do review evidence a little bit faster.
Yeah, exactly. And so back to my original point, I think this is where the future of GRC is actually going, is that a GRC tool will basically be a centralized hub for decision making. If you give it enough access into certain systems and enough like outbound like access, it'll just kind of coordinate and suggest and do wherever you're kind of comfortable.
I love that. And in fact, that's why when people ask me, how do you design a GRC team? I really insist on the term GRC engineers because you can get a GRC analyst. That's going to be maybe your lesser skilled, more entry-level person. But those people at your typical company, I'm not talking about consulting or engineering companies like the one I have. I'm talking about because my entry-level people are actually people who have been through a few hoops already.
Although you are hiring GRC engineers. I saw that today too.
Yes, we are. We need them because we're getting a ton of demand for all of this kind of stuff, not only just building out programs, but being able to take what Justin's talking about and instead of having an analyst who's going to go and look at all this stuff, those are going to be replaced with, these agents that are going to have all the analyst attributes inside the .md file and stuff like that. The skills.
It's right in the portal. You actually have in a couple of places you can actually provide the guidance that passes through with the agents through the portal.
And then you'll have that. And then what I see the future on top of it, and I don't know if you're going with that here, but I don't think GRC teams are being obsoleted at all. Their roles are changing to be able to write, customize, go in and fix the agent to further hone it in on the thing that's important to your company. And so a GRC analyst who you just hire, or a GRC engineer who you just hire that first week at your company, big bank or big manufacturer, or big whatever, the first week, they don't know anything about your company. They're brand new. They know what you told them during the interview. After about a month or two, they start to get a little bit of a feel for it. After a little bit longer, they're going to start understanding how things work. They'll be qualified to update these agents to be able to do the thing consistently and measure the output and do that. I was talking to a big bank a real big bank here in the Pittsburgh area, and they actually have AI agents with employee IDs. And they are running as autonomous workers, doing things, and they report up. So you might have a manager who has 3 humans and 2 AI agents.
That's interesting. The process side of that's very interesting. If they're utilizing the same processes, that's cool.
And one of the things that I formed kind of a principles document on this. One of the things that I want to implement is that somebody's always responsible. A person is always responsible.
100%.
So when you go in and assign either assessment or something like that to it, if I'm like the primary person originally responsible, if I assign an agent, it has actually a little error, like a little sub thing that the agent is actually assigned, but my name's still right on there. Type of thing. So you can see who's actually responsible, but that it's assigned to an agent.
Do you name your agents with real people names?
So I actually redesigned that this week here. I originally came at it from an OpenClaw perspective that I was going to allow the user to create agents and create their own personas, give instructions to unique ones. So doing third-party risk management, you might have an agent for, you'd have one for compliance, maybe, whatever it is. I actually went through and I got kind of a thought process. So like, do people really care to actually design and build their own agents, or do they just want it to get done?
That feels like busy work that I don't necessarily want to do.
Right. So I actually took a step back, and it's going to be one episki agent visible to the customer into this, but I'm going to have sub-agents behind it that will be delegated out, but you'll only see the one agent.
All I need to know is episki did this.
Yeah, exactly. Like I want to assign the episki agent to do a task, and I'll have an agent for third-party risk management on the back end. You don't know that. It would be the episki agent in form.
Yeah, you'll know, and it's all in the logs, and it's
Yeah. And it'll all be all logged under that agent. And it is an agent running it, but I'll have certain skill sets that I can tweak and kind of give specific internal kind of instructions to do quality stuff into that. So I kind of came to that. So now it's designed that there's really like one agent that you're interfacing with and not in naming.
And that agent has its own agents working for it.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on the skill. So it's more, again, an orchestration, like, okay, you're talking about third risk management. I know the agent to hand this off to. And it allows me to be, so first off, I think that's better from a customer perspective because the customer doesn't care. I'd like, customer doesn't care that this is third-party risk management or I'm reviewing evidence or whatever it is.
And you're not selling episki to your super complex GRC teams who have tons of people who are figuring all this out. That's not your. While they probably
it
will
can
use
work for
episki,
that, but
your more baseline customer is not going to have all those people with all the time to figure all that out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I want to define a new agent with whole thing of instructions, and then when you come out to it, you're like, which agent should I actually assign this to?
Right.
That was more work than I came. It was like they don't care. But I'm actually keeping the same infrastructure that in behind the scenes.
Well, the back end makes sense, and it's modular. And
if it came a time where that becomes the norm and people like defining their own agents, then maybe I'll turn that back on that you could actually do that.
Now, can your main agent go and create a new agent to get a job done that has?
I did not give it that skill yet, but it could. Yeah.
I'm thinking like paperclip. We both looked at, or I think we all talked about that at one point.
Yeah.
You assign it a CEO as your main agent, and you're like the board, and you tell the CEO what you need, what you expect to get done, and it will go and create agents to do the thing, and then give you approval so that you don't spend tokens you don't want to spend.
Yeah. So one thing, so I don't have that it can create its own agent yet, into that, but I do have it can create its own skills, which is kind of a conformed thing, and you can define your own skills into that. So you can either ask the agent to create a skill, which is like I have skills for prepping for DSP, and it's like go search out on the internet. Here are the topics I'm looking for. Do this, this, and that. It's basically a big say prompt, into that. Yeah.
And just to make sure I'm clear, like all that processing, AI processing stuff, right? Because if you're at any kind of enterprise, you're like, oh, tokens cost money. That's just all part of like your license, your typical like by user license, or is it switching?
Okay. Yeah. So
I was going to say that's like a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, exactly. If somebody's blowing out their AI usage on episki, I'm going to lose money. So it's basically going to have a generous kind of like monthly usage thing, and then if you go over it, it'll be like per 1,000, it'll be this price, into that. And I'm thinking too, like when you're onboarded, I'm gonna like give a big like also gift of tokens, because most of the token usage is gonna be when you're onboarding, into that.
Referrals too.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like when you first onboard, you're going to be using a lot of this stuff to set it up, to assign it, to get it, to a happy state. And so you don't want to run out of your kind of normal monthly, stuff into that, into there. And then I was thinking about later allowing the user to like pre-buy on a discount. Like if you pre-buy tokens, it'd be like 80% of what,
Yeah, because if you're always going over like the default, then you might as well just, And you can do that through like allocations and stuff. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'll do kind of a generous monthly, common usage into that will cover most.
And you don't even have to use that stuff though. Like that's like all the agent stuff is essentially like it's useful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But like there's a whole feature set that's robust and complete,
and
whatever.
Miss it out and everything like that. Yeah. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, so we'll have all those core features.
Yeah.
We're coming out with third-party risk management. We're coming out with Trust Center that will also be incorporated in this. We're coming out with the integrations. We're coming out with policies. You can manage your policies into there. There are a ton of new features that are actually dropping at the end of this month.
Cool.
That honestly will be pretty close to some of the main competitors out there, from a breadth. Obviously, they've been around for a while and have a lot more depth, into those. But from a breadth perspective, we'll be pretty close to a lot.
They also have a lot more legacy code and,
in fact,
and customizations that could break things.
One of the things I've been shown a little bit of demos here and there, and one of the person I showed it to, she's in the GRC space.
Yeah.
And she's dealing with a lot with like Vanta and getting SOC 2 over, people. And she was telling me, he's like, one of the most annoying thing is like we have evidence requests out for everybody, but now I have to go into the system to resend like the evidence notification for every person that's late. Like there's no automated way to do that through Vanta that I know of. I was like, oh yeah, you could just write a prompt to say notify everybody that are late, and it would episki would do that for you.
Yeah,
type of thing. So yeah, it's I think this is where the future's going, into it. And hopefully
we have a recorded demo on available, or how are we going to handle like if somebody listening says I want to see that.
So you'll be able to sign up for free. That's always open into that to start a free account. We also have off our website that you can sign up for a demo. It sends me a Calendly link, and I'll walk you through, exactly, some of the use cases and all that.
All right. Well, let me know if you actually do a recorded demo that just gives a superficial level.
We'll be doing a lot of I'm thinking about doing like a lot of like little Loom videos, like point Loom videos on some of the stuff, because I think that's one of the things is, nobody knows. Like if, I think I mentioned Brian Tracy, my 90s marketing thing. If you wink at a girl in the dark, nobody knows what you're doing, type of thing. It's kind of like marketing. If you don't say like what you're doing, nobody knows,
Right, yeah.
That's right.
I think it'd be awesome to be able to point, like I have a ton of people who I think would value this, and especially this 2.0, because you're filling a lot of gaps that I've looked at before, and I'm like, well, we also have this request, we also have this request, and you're hitting on a lot of those, if not all of them, and I would love to be able to point some of them to a shorts playlist on your episki YouTube that just says, all right, if you haven't seen this before, watch these 3 videos. If you haven't even ever seen episki, and here's what's new, and then here's how you do this, and that would be awesome. So if you're going to do that, send it my way.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, we'll definitely be coming out with a lot of content and everything. And I'm sure there'll be bugs along the way and everything. But one of the things that I'm really proud with our team and everything is we respond to everything. So we have a 0 bug policy. So it's an SLA of at max 7 days that bug is open. So if we have a bug, it gets squashed. That's type of thing. Yeah. So. And if it's critical, obviously we're doing it within a day, with that. But if it's like even if it's just a UI annoyance bug, if it gets logged, it's going into one of our queues for that week to get it done.
Yeah, I love
awesome.
that. So GRC engineering, huh? So do you think then that future GRC certifications will require engineering components?
So it's maybe. So the GRC Engineering Club, I'm not 100% sure, but I saw somebody just got a certification from them. So I don't know if they're doing.
That's very interesting. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. They were literally, I just saw it on LinkedIn. Was it this week or last week? They were the first one certified. Well,
I'll tell you that's a game changer for me, especially if we're looking at new people coming in to be CISO employees, to come in and like join the organization, help our GRC teams deliver on VGRC services, build this stuff out. And if you already can demonstrate that you have if you had like I don't know, CISSP, that's great. It's like you're really wide and an inch deep of knowledge.
Right.
Good. Not the end of the world if you don't have that, but it does show a little bit of dedication to something.
Yeah.
But if you follow on with some AI certifications and training, and then something that's totally around GRC engineering, with actually taking it from I can type into a ChatGPT prompt to I can build an actual autonomous agent to go and do this thing.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And I think with GRC engineering, and this is where it's hard to get college kids out of this, because you have to have a breadth of domain knowledge on how things work and how things talk and how things integrate, at least on a rough level. Like you don't have to be a networking engineer, but you have to understand generally networking components, TCP/IP, routing, all that stuff, and you don't have to be like a systems expert, but you have to roughly know a Linux system, a Windows system, AD, how it communicates, how it populates, GPOs, all that stuff. They don't really teach that into colleges, on that depth, into that. And that's where like GRC engineering, they have a compliance kind of focus, but they know the domain, and so they're like, what is possible? Well, does Splunk have an API I can call that I can pull back this evidence, or do I have to go through the portal every time to gather evidence and do screenshots?
Right.
It's like, I just use the API to like grab stuff.
But so if the focus of the domain shifts to engineering, which I don't think is a bad thing, what does it do, or does it do anything to the career paths of GRC people that would, I think, historically get closer and closer to business? Does it naturally start to fork where you have people that GRC team members that focus on business items and the interpretations of things, and then certain GRC people that focus on the tech?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it has to. So from a career pathing perspective, though, it's interesting because I think typically what I've seen is you need to do if you really want a seat at the table from a business perspective, you need to spend some time at the GRC table, or else you won't know how the business runs.
One of the things I've seen in the past is in IT is you come up through IT, you start doing stuff. You could be a technical analyst, you could be a business analyst. And we've had a lot of business analysts who are the ones that are talking to the people in the various departments, understanding how it works. They're the ones that get they can make the architectural diagram to a degree.
Translators.
Yeah. They're outlining the enterprise architecture part. And this is the part that's non-technical, just how the business works.
Yeah.
And then they bring it back, and the technical analysts will do the next part of that that mapping, that grid, and put that stuff there. And they're together they work on, well, show me the data flows. How does this all work? And so I see this evolving in the same way, where you're going to have your more IT person is learning how all of this part works, but your GRC engineer from the business analyst side is going to be understanding how the business works. What I don't know that I'm as interested in seeing is those really being different people. I'm thinking that needs to, the people who are doing the GRC engineering, but need to both initially understand how the business works and how to do, to a degree, manage the AI interfaces.
I like that in principle. I question whether or not there's enough time in the day to get domain expertise in the engineering side, and then also domain expertise in the, I don't know, the evaluative and business operations side.
Yeah, so thinking about that, I'm thinking that if you came right out of college, and I'm on the advisory board of a couple different universities, and this is stuff you're making me think of to take back to them. And I know some of them listen to this because they've told me. And so if you're listening to this, think about, we always talk about what are you teaching and covering in your curriculum, what's mandatory. And I used to say, if you don't have something that's dealing with frameworks and just understanding what a SOC 2 is and that stuff, if you're not teaching that, you're missing the boat, because people need that. Now I'm adding to it, as of this very second, right now I'm adding to it, that you need to understand how you can do what Justin just described.
Completely
how
agree.
you can actually create an agent that has skills and understands it. So I can see somebody coming in out of college who spent some time getting a degree in this, did some internships, worked on this a little bit in a practical environment at a real business, and then be able to get into the GRC side as the GRC technical engineer. I don't see them, to your point earlier, and I support that 100%, I don't see them having the business acumen to be the business analyst side of that.
Yeah.
So I see them coming up and being able to do
branching.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually being even more valuable by being able to do both. I think it'll be easier to come in on the technical side, because you can learn how to build an agent without understanding exactly how the business works. And then you need to learn how the business works so you can see how to apply it.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's absolutely right.
Now, with all that being said, I've thought about this a little bit, and I don't know how comfortable I am with it, but the 3 layers of defense, obviously we're all familiar with.
We've talked about this a bit.
The layer 1 and layer 2 are kind of like blending together here, with AI kind of playing a little bit of governance, into this. But like one of the things I kind of theorized going down this path, and I haven't focused on it, but if you give connections access to do stuff, and it finds that 3 people don't have MFA, what's the next step?
Turn it on.
Turn it on, type of thing. Like all of a sudden now you're not.
So here's
oversight.
But are your
now your operations,
this is what I'm saying.
Type of thing. So
are your auditors administrators? Because there are auditors out there that could have changed your global domain password policy when they found the exception at the time. They're not.
No, but I would also not give my auditor I'd give them the read-only we talked about earlier.
Right.
So, Justin, I love that. And here's what I would do instead to take that to the next level is I would still support the 3 lines of defense model. And I would still make sure that the agent that was out doing the read-only to check for all the MFA, that agent will have access to check it. And they'll also have access, the right access they'll have is the JIRA ticket that they can create to tell another group to go do it. Now, I would have that other group assign an agent to watch for JIRA tickets. And if it's a exact scenario of this is missing MFA, this other agent who's controlled by a different group, and I, in running GRC, do not have the ability to mess with his agent's skills.
Gotcha.
And that agent will go and turn it on. And all of that happened overnight while me and the person I go to lunch with that's in the IT side of the house are sleeping.
So this gets into like, I think of it as AI SOD, right? Like agent segregation
100%.
of duties.
Yeah. 100%.
And so I absolutely agree with you. You're going to have the ops people building ops agents, and you're going to have the line 2 people building line 2 agents, and you're going to have the line 3 people building line 3 agents. Like that's just where this is going. But so they're all responsible for their own thing. No one could, we talked a little bit earlier for different reasons about like OFAC stuff, like foreign influence on other things. It's kind of like that. It's like, I don't want the ops people influencing the oversight agents, and I don't want the oversight people influencing the ops agents, right?
Yeah. And so the role I'm thinking about now is, and we had a person out there who was in one of our organizations. Her name was Janine. She was a ServiceNow expert.
Yep.
She really understood it. She architected and drove a lot of people on the way that we're going to use ServiceNow at a company I worked for in the past.
Yeah.
And she would sit down with the security team and we worked through our workflows. She sat down with the IT folks on the sysadmin side and worked through their workflows. And we actually worked together then, but we needed somebody. And so here's a new role is the person who's sitting down and bringing the orchestration together. So is there an actual title out there? Orchestration architect, an orchestration engineer, an orchestration manager?
Composer, right? Good.
Yeah, exactly. And you need the that's orchestra, we need the we need the conductor. But we
that's what I meant. The conductor. Yeah.
The conductor is the conducting the orchestra. Well, we need the conductor of the orchestration, and I see that as being a very powerful role. So if you want to talk about career path, do the thing where you're coming in as the IT person who understands how to write agent skills and build an actual valuable agent. Have them come up through the ranks, learn the business, because I certainly don't want the person who's never seen how this works to be the conductor of all of this. I want them to come through.
It would be the perfectly secured system that never works.
Yes, yes.
But turn on the security controls everywhere.
So a thing I've been thinking about, I think you just answered a question I've been asking for a while, which is, look, as things get faster and faster and faster, the issue you have, you might no longer need people to do certain work that they did before, but you need more people to do oversight and review and coordination, right? Think about public relations or marketing, right? I can spit out a gazillion posts and a gazillion whatever all the time, but if I have 100 agents spitting out 100 posts and 100 blog articles, how do I know they're not conflicting with each other? How do I know, the issue becomes about conflicts in the content you're producing at speed. And so I've been thinking about this for a little bit, like, how do you deal with that? And I think, Joe, you just answered it very, very well, which is to say there's going to be a new category of IT operator to some extent, although you're not in the operations layer of the 3 lines of defense.
Yeah.
But an administrative role that coordinates or helps facilitate discussion between the 3 lines of defense because they all have to talk to each other so rapidly. Because to your point, if we all represent a line of defense, right? And if I'm ops and I screw something up overnight and Justin's line 2 agent catches it and says, hey, you should fix that. And then I fix that. But then we're duty bound to notify the 3rd line of defense, which is Joe's agents, that a thing was wrong for whatever fractions of a minute at some point. But then he has the full report too.
Yeah. And
there's someone that needs to coordinate that and make sure it's working together.
And get the communication right.
And I was just talking to another close partner company that I work with, and I can throw their name out if it's okay. But they, I'll tell you what they're doing. They're doing digital transformation. But when you thought of digital transformation before AI, it was how do you get all this manual stuff to work.
It was.
And so now digital transformation, as they're doing it, is really a lot of this. It's how do we come in? Yeah. How do we help orchestrate? How do they become the conductor? Actually, not even that. They're not even the conductor. They're the symphony writer, if you want to put this into
the composer.
Yeah, they're the composer who's putting this together. They're creating this thing that you can then go and your orchestra can go and learn the music, and a conductor can conduct how it's going to operate. So this company I'm talking to and working with on this stuff, they have experts who are helping to pull this together and help you understand how to get this done. Because 10 years ago, if you would have brought this to me, I would have said, all right, who am I hiring that's coming in to do this? And, reach out to me if you need that thing, because I'll hook you up, get you the right connection. But what you need is a combination of all the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
Inside your organization, you need somebody to help start building these various agents. Use episki to manage the GRC function of that. Like all the agents, Justin's already built them all. Use it. Don't reinvent that wheel.
Right.
And man, if I wasn't like running a company and I could go and design a GRC team, 100% this is what I'd be wanting to do.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I think it's the way to go. It's so interesting to me that there's going to be I suspect, a whole new category of IT employee that is based around allowing things to move fast and talk to each other, but maintaining segregation of duties.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is so fascinating.
They say AI is removing jobs, but this is a whole new category.
We just created like 5 new jobs for one company right now.
But that's the thing. Like every industrial shift starts by removing jobs.
Yeah, right.
And then continues through, we hadn't anticipated this problem.
Right.
We need people to do this too.
Support it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. We just created the line, and all this stuff's going down through the line, so we can get rid of the 10 people that used to do what the line now does.
Right.
But when the line needs maintained on a nightly basis or a quarterly basis, that's a new hire. That's a new skill, and you're probably not gonna. If you're big enough, you hire that internally. If you're not, you schedule it. Like I don't change my own oil.
Right.
I take it somewhere.
Specialists.
Yeah. They're changing lots of oil every day. So,
and I bet those orchestration coordinators or whatever you call them are going to be really interested when models change and how individual lines are updating their models, because it's going to break they're effectively the business process interface.
Yeah, so then there'll be a whole testing suite on like, okay, we have to run through all our use cases and make sure things don't break.
Yeah, your QA groups are going to do that. And I liken it to your brother-in-law did a really nice job. I was at the orchestra concert, and they reimagined a song. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It's not important. And it's a song that was like totally a rock song, and then it got sung in a whole different way. And somebody had to take that and recompose that music to do this. And it was beautiful. It was wonderful. It was like the best chorus concert I've been to in all the time
that's awesome.
At Pine Richland. And as we saw that, all these things are like falling into place. Like tonight, I learned so much listening to you guys talk about how we can take agents and have them do these things in a little bit more realistic, because you're actually doing it in a theoretical manner.
Yeah, it's really cool. It is where it's going. I agree with that.
And I'm excited for it. Like it will just help businesses be way more secure, way faster. If they adopt this fully, it'll take a little bit to transition, into that, kind of mindsets and, hearts and minds of people.
But the trust, the trust side
exactly.
of things.
And,
and that's why understanding deterministic versus non-deterministic.
Right, exactly.
Like if that's not a part of future GRC education curriculas, you got a problem.
Right.
Because you need to understand that.
Yeah. In fact, I was talking with somebody from Meta that, we talked, I think, on the podcast before. Meta forces every one of their employees, like a few other companies, to do AI fully, and they're measured like how much AI they use during a given day, into that. And I was going over a little bit of my architecture about utilizing recipes, not using AI for everything, but for using it for the context and to the brains, and then writing the stuff to be repeatable, saving on tokens, making it deterministic.
Yeah.
He actually mentioned, he's like, you're designing it the right way. Most people are just throwing AI at everything.
Oh, well, I don't think
he's
you told us about this, but you didn't really talk about it. So I'm going to talk about it for you, and you can jump in. And it's that, unless I totally missed it, because of the way you do the recipes, you're not spending a ton of tokens every time the recipe runs.
No, zero.
Because what happens
the recipe runs,
is
there's 0 tokens.
Yeah, and so you use tokens to build the recipe.
Yes.
The recipe becomes your code. It's there. You don't need AI to execute that code again. Episki's engine is executing that code.
That's an unbelievably good point.
If it fails and Episki detects a failure, it's going to throw an error that'll trigger an AI. Well, only then will it start.
Like, why did it fail?
It'll start costing tokens at that point.
Yeah.
So this thing can run 1,000 times reliably until it breaks, and you haven't spent an extra token.
Right.
That is such a great point. So two things of why you use non-deterministic to build deterministic tests.
Yes, exactly.
One is absolutely it's auditable.
Yes.
But the other one is it doesn't cost you extra.
Yes.
Yeah, because you have it. You have that code. You have that. What is it?
Calling this API, these parameters.
Brilliant.
What is it? A Python script in the back end or what?
No, it's all JSON, and and we run it over JavaScript.
Gotcha.
On the back end and everything.
That's such a good call out, Joe.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's part of the core design and everything, into that. So nobody wants to spend 1 million tokens on doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
So
Nor should you. You don't have to.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the API, the call. Once you get a connection, into that. And like I said, we'll have pre-built ones for the obvious ones, but at any point you'll be able to go into the AI chatbot into that and just say, I want to create a recipe. Here are the parameters. And it will create a brand new recipe for you to run at your discretion.
Now, can you do this? Like what I love, one of the things I love is going in and just hitting the ChatGPT or talking to it and let me ramble on for a while, and then I say summarize concisely what I just said, and it says it back to me, and I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I meant, except for this, change that, tell me again. It tells me, and it's good. Can I talk to
talk, but you can do it through typing.
Well,
I don't have the audio interface yet into it.
Well, but you're just saying, can you exchange dialogue?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and actually,
I will get it in there.
Can you brainstorm with?
So that'll be like 2.1, right? So 2.0 is coming. I'm waiting for
might
that.
Include it into this
because
it's a simple little plugin to listen to audio.
Right, because
browser, you'll have to allow it and all that stuff. But that's
to be able to sit there and to say to it, instead of trying to sit down and type it, I would just want to talk it through. It's like it'd be really cool to have a conversation with Episki and say, I don't know exactly what my agent to do. When we're done here, I want you to write a skill, but I'm going to tell you what I want, and I want you to interview me, and I want you to tell me. I want you to ask me no less than 15 questions so we get this right, and then I want you to tell me what I said and how it'll work.
So it'll do all that through text right now. So, yeah. But I'll build it. I'll build the.
You build that for me?
Yeah. Right. The audio interface for you.
That's quite good.
Thank you.
That's quite good. Dude, I love it. GRC engineering. It is where it's going.
Yeah.
It has to. It's too slow. It's too manual. It's too hard otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. And nobody wants to go chase down screenshots or stuff of that nature. Like if there's an API for it, then just do it, type of thing. And honestly, at some point, I actually envisioned that, there's like headless Chrome that you can do. Maybe if episki had access, it could even take screenshots for you. That's not going to be in this version here, type of thing. But I'm using headless Chrome to go to vendor trust portal websites.
But I could ask episki to build me an agent to take screenshots.
Oh yeah. You could, but it has to have the access.
That's the permissions.
Yeah. But I even have like episki right now. This is a little off topic, but it automatically builds documentation, including screenshots, right now. So anytime I needed to regenerate the documentation, because I got tired of updating the documentation myself, I was like, all right, you need to do this and get that you automatically take screenshots of yourself doing this.
That's such an amazing meta solution that you're going to apply forward.
And it automatically now builds the documentation with
awesome.
screenshots of the particular areas that it's talking about with it. So,
well, this is fantastic. What a great episode.
Yeah. And I think we're hitting time here.
Yeah, I'd say we wrap.
Let's punt. Yeah. There was another topic potentially, but we'll do it next time.
Yeah, we'll hit that later.
So... All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to sign up for BSides Pittsburgh after this episode. The tickets will be going up soon. And don't forget to check out episki. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Anybody that does that will really help us actually do that. It builds up our numbers and everything. Yeah. We're actually almost at a milestone of subscriptions on YouTube. 100. We're like 94, 96.
Uh-oh.
So
be number 100.
Yeah,
please.
exactly.
I love that.
So help us achieve that number and everything, and we'll see you next time. See y'all.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.